I wake up to the sound of snorting. Suck and blow. Suck and blow. The whole room vibrates with it. I move my body up. It's not heavy. It's just not used. My body aches a bit from the small bed. Shower was cold and unsatisfying. It's never a thing to look forward to. This time, I managed to clean my hair. I rotate what I clean, since you can only clean so much in 30 seconds. I look at the water tube, thinking that later I have to drink this water. I think of Ben on the running machine. I hate the way the machine makes the whole house shakes. Sometimes, it becomes the only thing I can think of. I think of how I have to drink Ben's sweat later. It shouldn't bother me. It will be clean. But it does bother me. I do not like Ben much. The food is dry and lifeless. It tastes like furniture. After breakfast, I go to charge every single battery in the habitat. It takes a while. Then, I get my daily 20-minute news. After, I report back to Mission Control with our long list of coordinate numbers. It usually goes like this. 3, 4. Repeat. 3, 4. Confirm. 3, 5. No. I repeat once again. 3, 4. This goes on for a long time. Then we have to check if we got the numbers right. And we almost never do on the first try. I exercise. And I exercise. And again. And again. We used to have burrito nights, though I wouldn't really call these burritos. We used to have a board game Wednesday. We used to try. Nowadays, everyone seems to have figured out that sometimes it's okay to not get along. I'm an astronaut, though I like to call myself a Martian. I live in a Mars habitat. It had been 6 months, and my mission here is 2 years. This is what the life of a Mars habitat scientist will look like, according to the Hawaii Space Exploration Analog and Stimulation Experiments. Of course, this sounds very different than the life of a habitat scientist in the recent science fiction movies, for example, The Martian, or any science fiction book and movie. How about life on Mars, when we have already established multiple habitats and became self-sustainable? We will live underground. We won't have any windows. All our vision allows will be the limited space inside the habitats. Yes, there will be a greenhouse, but never like a forest. Everything is controlled under precise lighting and machine circulations. It will be hard to travel, and we will be mostly trapped just like the people in the first habitat. It is then a relief to say that we will most likely never try to build a city on Mars. But we will colonize Mars. We will establish a self-sustainable economy on Mars. And that will be the basis for further space exploration and further space travels. Until one day, we find a planet that we can build a city on, and we abandon our dying home once and for all. Before then, what we will have is a space economy, space commercialization, and space weaponization, and a horrible living condition in space. Today, you could purchase a 55 million ticket to go on a SpaceX capsule and have a 10-day stay on the orbiting outpost. There are seats on the International Space Station. We are fascinated by space. We dream about dancing with the stars. We dream about owning the stars. How do we own a star? The same way we own America. Who owns a star? Can we split it half and half? Would it still be American and Chinese? What do we call ourselves when we are amongst the stars? Would it be a native species protesting against our arrival? Are they the new race problem? Why space? The Curiosity rover found microbes on Mars. We bought it there. Sometimes bacteria grow much stronger in space. Over time, they mutate and become our worst enemy. In 2018, a Tesla was sent to space. It was not sanitized. Sometime somewhere, that car could kill existing organisms on another planet, or start a new ecosystem on the basis of microbes. We may be creating our own aliens. Before the Apollo 11 liftoff, 500 African American protesters protested at the Kennedy Space Center. They brought 2 mules and a wooden wagon to show the contrast between the rocket and the poor. They said, $12 a day to feed an astronaut. We could feed a child for $8. Why space? Is space worth it? How much space development goals are a mask for space weaponization? What is it that the Space Museum is actually trying to say? Which promise is real? And which fiction? Some say the habitat itself is science fiction. That part we can confirm is not. The question isn't could we? We could have landed on Mars around 20 years after the moon landing. At least, that's what the plan was. But for politicians, the question is, should we? What do we get in return? There is no massive economic return on landing on Mars. The only reason we landed on the moon was because of the 1955 to 1975 space race. It is argued that the campaign for space during the space race gives people an escape after the event of World War II to dream of a future with new humans who will live a better life. An escape from the trauma of the war, which would be a false promise. We could go on other planets, but humans will be humans everywhere. Yet we dream. We dream of growing up to be an astronaut. We dream to bathe in the stars. This is Miss Astronaut. She is the first astronaut Barbie on Earth. It was produced in 1965. This is satellite jumping shoes, made in the 1950s. This is an astronaut costume made for Gombe in 1965. Leica the dog was sent to space by Russia in 1957. This is Gilbert Moon McDare space dog from 1965. This is a Christmas ornament from the USSR. Christmas was banned at the time, so they made Christmas trees and called it New Year's trees. And they made Christmas ornaments and called it New Year's ornaments. At the time, a cosmonaut ornament can be found on every New Year's tree. When I was researching about the toys, I noticed that before 1955, there weren't many space toys. The toys were space guns and rockets. And when the space race started, there was an explosion of astronaut toys and toys that suggest humans' presence in space. For many children, this is where the space dream started. For others, it's this, or this.
Our speed is now maximum, sir.
Or it's the Apollo landing. One day, our planet will die. On that day, we will be long gone. We would have become a multi-planetary species, or we would have gone extinct. Are humans worth saving? That's not really the question. For as long as we live, we will fight to survive. It doesn't matter if we are worth it or not. We are selfish, yet we try not to be. We try to control our desire, yet we landed on the moon. We try to stop the unnecessary, yet people are fighting to get to Mars. It is not a question of why. It is not a question of how and when, because we know we can. It is a question of who. Who do we allow to control our economy in space? Who do we put our faith to? Why space? When I look up into the night sky, I imagine floating, flying, and soaring in space.